Hey, my friend, welcome back to the channel. We have got this month's Sidereal Astrology forecast for you. We're talking about moving from Aries to Taurus season, talking about Mercury changing zodiac signs. We'll talk about our new moon in Taurus, our full moon in Scorpio, Mars changing signs, Venus changing signs. My friend, we've got a lot of movement this month that we got to talk about. So we are going to dive right in. Welcome to the channel, my friend. I am Danie C. Muniz. If we have not met, I am the creator of this channel and the founder of Sacred CEO. My friend, I initiate women into conscious leadership. So we go from being a spiritual seeker and learning all the things to actually being a spiritual leader, to leading our lives, our businesses, and having the things that we desire, because that's what we are here for, my friend. Navigating life, navigating relationships, navigating business. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and do my favorite thing, and that is the state of the planets. But before we get there, as a reminder, this is on two I want to say platforms, but two ways of viewing this forecast. Number one, we have the YouTube channel where you can see the charts, you can see me, and then we have the audio version, which is on the podcast, The Cosmic Mystic. So if you are looking for an audio version, check out the podcast. If you want to see the charts of all the transits I'm going to talk about, then come on over to YouTube. Okay. Here we go, state of the planets, and that is, where is everybody as we kick off this month? So let's go ahead and we've got a planet here I want to talk about in a second that a lot of people are talking about, and we're going to see where it is. So the sun, as we kick off this May 1st, 2026, is right here in Aries. That's right, our sun is in Aries. We have Chiron here in Aries. We have Mercury in Aries, Mars in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces. We've got our Pluto over here in Capricorn. We've got the moon kicking off this month in Libra, and we are coming off this full moon energy that we had on the 30th into the 1st that was in Libra. We also have our Jupiter over here in Gemini, which will be moving out of Gemini very shortly in June. And then we've got Venus over here in Taurus, and the one that everybody seems to be talking about in our tropical friends' worlds, and that is Uranus. So Uranus is currently in Taurus. It is at 6 degrees Taurus, so it's going to be in Taurus just a bit longer, not moving out of Taurus until 2032 of April, and it will move then into Gemini. Until then, so we've got about 4 or 5, 6 years until it moves. So I do want to make that statement right here, right now. In Sidereal Astrology, Uranus has not moved into Gemini. Uranus is still in Taurus and will be in Taurus until April of 2032. All right, let's go ahead and dive into what is happening in Sidereal Astrology this month with our first planet, which is our sun. Okay, so the sun is currently in Aries. It will be moving into Taurus about middle of this month. Specifically, we will see it move on the 15th of the month. So we are currently still in the energy of Aries, and this has been go, do, right? Like, don't ask for permission, just go. That's where our consciousness has been. So let's talk about, there are a couple of aspects here that we are still seeing from April that are coming in, and then we've got a couple of new ones that are starting before the sun moves into Taurus, which will affect the sun in just a little bit. So first off, we have the square to Pluto that we have seen since mid-April that is going to fall off here on the 1st. So the last day here, we'll see the square over here to Pluto. Pluto energy gone. It will come back towards the end of the month in a trine, but for now, this is leaving us. But we do have a sextile over here to Jupiter that is going to come in here on the 4th. And that is a really beautiful transit. So let me tell you a little bit about when the Sun and Jupiter get together in this particular transit. So Jupiter being that planet of luck, optimism, go big, let's expand everything. With the sextile energy, which is a very supportive energy, there is a lot of, opening up opportunities for things. There's a lot of generosity happening here, a lot of growth in the material and the spiritual, both in this aspect. Some of the things, though, that are a little bit challenging is that it looks all really good, and yet it can also cause a lot of burnout. So because we are in that fire energy of Aries, which is go, 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 we can also feel a little depleted, especially because Mars still is in Pisces. It will be moving out of Pisces into Aries this month, but currently right now, it can feel very depleting. So if you're feeling like tired, restless, and kind of like, I just need to slow down, but there's this, I gotta keep going energy, and there's a little bit of a battle here. This is part of what's happening with this sextile here with Jupiter. Now, I want to move on to the next one, which is coming in with Mercury. So Mercury is going to be conjunct the Sun. Whoops, I hit the wrong one. I meant to hit the Sun. It's going to be conjunct the Sun right here on the 9th of May. And as we enter like that full first week of May on the 3rd or the 4th, we're going to see this energy, right, starting to build. Now we are preparing for new moon, right? We're coming off that full moon energy. We're going into the new moon energy, which will be middle of the month when the Sun moves into Taurus. But this right here with the Sun and Mercury, and both of those being in Aries, there is a lot of doing, thinking without, or speaking without thinking, right? Now, one of the really good things about this transit is there is a lot of focus on thinking and communication right here. There's a lot of adaptability. There's a lot of curiosity here. However, it's like act and then ask for an apology later. So I say this because this is not only us, this is everybody, right? So we might be needing that energy. Some of us have an idea, a thought, and we just need to act upon it. The idea with Mars here, and I keep bringing this up because I want to be very clear. And so let me stop my share if I can get Zoom to work with me for a second and share a little bit about what this is as far as how these planets kind of work together. So the Sun is our consciousness, right? It's what is present for us. It's what we're thinking about. It's where we are very present to whatever is happening, okay? Mercury is our thinking, processing of information, and how we're communicating. There's a lot of, there's also some other things like short travel, our neighborhoods, communities, our siblings that get involved here. But Mercury really is that thinking, communication area, where Mars is the action, it's the drive, it's the motivation. So when we're looking at this, and all of these planets will be changing signs this month, we have to look at it as an overall, not just an individual planet, right? And so when we look at this, I want you to keep in mind that our backdrop right now with that consciousness is in this Aries energy. Now with Mercury being in Aries, it's also in that go, go, do. And we've been here for a few weeks now, especially with the Mercury and the Sun both in Aries. But now they're coming together. So I always say this when we have the conjunction, it's two parties who like are staying in the same house and who are influencing each other. When we have Mars, who is currently in Pisces, it will be moving into Aries, and it's motivation, it's our drive. Well, Pisces it makes things a little bit more confusing. It makes things a little bit harder to grasp and harder to see. And so this thinking and this wanting to do things, right, from the Aries energy, which is great, like we want to like be able to act upon things and take action and move forward in things. Pisces, that energy is like, really? Like, it's just not quite clear yet. I just don't know if this is right? There's a lot of that uncertainty with Pisces, and it's also absorbing a lot of energy. Pisces is very boundless, right? It doesn't have, it's a water sign. And so it kind of seeps into all things. If we think about this from an energetic space, it is seeping in all the things where Aries wants to go and do, and Pisces wants to be compassionate and loving and supportive, which, yes, we all want that. And it's also boundaries are not quite clear here. So whether we're talking about in relationships, whether we're talking about with our own health and vitality, whether we're talking about business, career, in our financial space, it can get a little weird here is the best word for me as we're looking at this as an overall landscape. So I want you to keep that in mind, because until Mars moves into Aries, these ideas and these actions, it can feel like you're kind of treading in mud, right? Like you can't quite get it going. And it's like, oh, I know the idea, I know what I want to do, but it's still feeling a little like, oh, okay. So I want you to keep that in mind as we continue on with where the sun and is connecting with all these other planets. Okay, so as we continue on with the sun, we do have a few more aspects that I want to hit as we start to enter that sun in Taurus season, which is going to take place right here on the 15th. So Friday the 15th, we will see the sun move over into Taurus. Now, Mercury is still going to be it's going to move out of that Aries energy and into Taurus right before the sun does, right? They're kind of following each other, and you can see that right here. Mercury moves into Taurus, and then the sun will move into Taurus. So they're kind of plodding along here. So first our thinking action, let's go, let's do this. Even though that drive of motivation is still like, taking its time, the sun in now Taurus and Mercury now Taurus is going to slow it down. This is going to pair really beautifully with the Pisces energy that Mars is in. Now, I want you to remember that Mars has been in Pisces since beginning of April, and it is going to stay in Pisces until May 20th. So we've got a few weeks here, almost 3 weeks, where we're going to still be in that kind of like slowing it down, feeling into things, embodying things, especially as our sun and Mercury are both moving through Taurus. Taurus is a very sensual sign. It's a very embodied sign. And so this is it's like a real sign, right? The sun in Taurus is like, give me the practicality, right? Give me what is actually sustainable. Give me, we don't want to, sugarcoat things here. We want like, what is this pricing? What is this value? What is it? And one of the big things that the sun invites us into during this season is indeed our own personal value, our relationship with our own value, how we value ourselves, and how does that play out in all aspects of our life. So we're going to look at my worth. And so for my fellow business owners here, our worth in how we charge for our time and our wisdom and access to us, right? It's not just the worth that we have, the value that we have. It's also in how, as a business owner, how do I see that, right? And this is a big play, especially during this season with Mercury in there. Mars is also going to get into there towards the end of the month. Venus will be in there. And so there's really this energy around our worth and our value. And so this, I would say, is one of the best times of the year to look at that. Look at your beliefs around your worth and what you're charging, looking at your own value and your relationship with that value and how it constitutes your daily rhythms. The daily things that you do they display the worthiness that you feel inside? And if there's a disconnect here, then that, my friend, is an opportunity. So some of the things that I might invite you into in this season is definitely looking at your worth and your worth in how you're taking care of yourself, in your health, how you're taking care of yourself and charging your worth in your business, how you are, having the value as it relates to your pricing, right? And how it relates to your relationships that you're in, the relationships that you have. Are you fully receiving that value, right, in your relationships, your full value, right? Now, you can also look at this from your soul purpose and calling, right? The sun here is illuminating whether your calling, your purpose is actually rooted in your values, in your life, in your body, not when anybody is looking, right? Not what we're putting out on social media, but when we're behind closed doors. What are we actually doing? How are we operating? How are we identifying? That's another big question that Taurus is going to ask us. So this is it's one of my favorite seasons, not just because it's my sun sign and it's one of my favorite signs, but because it really gives us that opportunity to slow down and smell the roses. We've been hitting the ground running with Aries despite that Mars energy. And now here we are with this Taurus energy to say, okay, let's slow down and make sure the things that we took action on are sustainable, are going to get us to where we want. Okay. Moving on to our next transit here that's coming in. It's going to be the conjunction with Uranus. And we're going to see that take place on the 18th. So I'm just going to move our chart over to the 18th. There we go. You'll see now we have Mercury, Uranus, and the Sun hanging out all together. Now, when Uranus comes into the picture, so we've got Mercury and the Sun, they are like masterminding, let's just say. They're sharing ideas, they're supporting each other in a really nice way. And then Uranus enters the house. And it's kind of like this flow of energy that comes in that wants to break up the routine, right? Sun and Mercury, they've been chilling, having their coffee, taking it easy, sitting out on the balcony. And then Uranus walks in and Uranus is like, no. We need to shake this up. Let's go and do something different. Let's go to the beach, right? Let's go to the city. Let's go do something. It doesn't just want to sit around in the same old. It wants to change things up. It wants to take some risks, right? It wants to be the rebel. It wants to do something different. So if it wants to sleep in, it'll sleep in. If it wants to stay up all night, it'll stay up all night. It just wants to shake up the norm. Now, I can tell you that over this last month, April, my love and I decided to take our first trip of many, where we are working and traveling. And that was a big disruption to my regular schedules. One of the main kind of things that I discovered on that journey was time, and how when I'm home in my office here, time seems slipping. It seems like there's not enough, that it's flowing by so fast. But yet when I was on the road, time felt so expansive. This was a disruption to my normal routine that helped me identify and see something different, see the way I'm living, see the routines that I have, and the the organization, the planning that I step into for safety, for security, and not just, having that as something to lean back on. And it brought up some really deep woundings of mine that I hadn't anticipated. But that was it. It was the difference, right, in my normal routine. And that's what the sun here, right, with Uranus and Mercury, that's what it's bringing in. It's bringing in something different for you. It's inviting you to try something new. Now, I'm not saying go take a month away from your home and go travel. If that's what you want to do, go do it, my friend. It's absolutely beautiful. And I can't wait till our next trip. Might be a shorter trip in June, but then another one later this year. I'm so excited for that opportunity for the disruption, where I used to hate disruption and hate change. And, I'm a Taurus sun, so I want to dig in and I want to keep things the way they are. But when my environment is disrupted, when it is shifted, I have to get innovative. And I have to get real. And my friend, there is no better shadow work that you can do than when your patterns are interrupted. All right. The last one I want to talk about is coming in here on the 20th at the end of the month, and that is with our friend Pluto. So as I mentioned earlier, we did have the Pluto transit that fell off right on the 1st of this month square, but now Pluto has moved into the trine position. Well, the sun has moved, and so it is now in the trine position here with our Pluto. So what does that mean? And it's going to be here for about 12 days. I say this because Pluto is depth, right? Pluto is deep, and Pluto helps us get connected to our psychic gifts, our psychic perception, how we're seeing things, both physically and within other realms, right? Other spaces. And so there's a really intense emotional connection that comes in here with Pluto. Now, this is a supportive transit, which gives us access to things that we might not have, or we might normally not access on a regular basis. So this is where we can see into things, we can feel into things, right? Extremes in many circumstances to see the differences. So last week I was studying the law of rhythm. And if you know any of the universal laws, the law of rhythm is about cycles. It's about moving really a lot through extremes, and knowing that things have cycles, that in one space we will be here, and then in another space we will be here. And it is something that came through very clear to me as I was, looking at where the cycles were in my life and where I was at in some places, and just had that really optimism around, okay, this is just a current cycle. I'm just moving through this cycle. There's an up and a down to the cycle, right? So I'm like, okay, well, if I'm in a down, that means there's an up coming, right? So there's a lot of hope. And I had the realization that a principle that we should live by, and that is that we are always, this is a belief that I took on, over like 15 years ago. And it is that we are always in the right place at the right time. And as I think about the law of rhythm, and as I think about this particular transit with Pluto, because our full moon at the end of the month is also in the energy of Scorpio, who is ruled by Pluto, that this cycle that we're in, we are always in the right time. Whether it is in the high of that cycle or the low of that cycle, they both offer us beautiful insight. They both give us perspective that we wouldn't have had we only always been in one. The highs are beautiful because of the lows. The lows we're able to move through them because of the highs. My friend, this time of year is it's so beautiful because, for one, it's spring where things are starting to bloom and blossom and move. And now we get this beautiful opportunity with this Taurus energy to slow down, to make sure everything that we've been building this first part of the year is in alignment with where we are headed. Stop and smell the roses. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our full moon and new moon. Now, I will do a video on our new moon and full moon later on in the month, but I do want to touch on them here because they both are playing a beautiful role that is opening up for us, and that we're going to see expand in with the full moon. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and bring up our first one, which our new moon happens to take place right as the sun moves into Taurus on the 16th. All right. You can see right here that we have a couple of things happening with this particular new moon. So the new moon is that opportunity in the cycle to reflect and to set intentions for the next cycle. Now, with this particular new moon, we've got our sun and moon in Taurus, conjunct Mercury and Uranus, and making that beautiful sextile over here to Jupiter. So what does all of that mean? Well, the new moon in Taurus is actually giving us a really beautiful time to have the messaging, have the disruption, and have the groundedness so that it is landing fully in our own value. So here's the beautiful thing. I talked earlier about how Taurus really helps us look at value, our own personal value. And if we look at this with Mercury in the way that we've been thinking, right? And looking at our foundations, our material foundations, right? It's here with the Uranus energy to maybe open up, maybe to notice where the cracks in that foundation are. You know, I'm just going to bring it back to this because it's something that's very present in my mind, which is the travels. As we were traveling, there was a vision that we had. There was, I had visualized what I thought this would be. I had, daydreamed about what I thought it would be like to travel and to work. But then there was the actual doing of it that exposed things that worked and things that didn't, right? It started to uncover cracks in my own routines, cracks in our relationship, cracks in the foundations of what we thought this would look like and what it actually was. Now, you can look at that and be like, oh, wow, it just disrupted everything. Yes, and, right? It exposed things for us to look at, for us to get in sync with, for us to get really truthful and honest about what it is that we were wanting. And so this new moon right here is going to do that for you, right? This is showing you where some cracks might be so that you can take a look at your foundations and say, ooh, right? Whether that is in your health and vitality, whether that's in your relationships, whether that's in your business, in your financial realm, or whether this is in your career, or even in your calling and your purpose and the way in which you are executing that. Now, we look at this full moon, so this is starting to expose the cracks, right? Well, now we get into the full moon. So I'm going to show you the full moon, which happens to be at the very, very end of the month on the 31st here. It'll be overnight on the 30th through the 31st. Now, here we go with our full moon in Scorpio. This full moon has the connection over here to Pluto and to Saturn. So I'm going to reorient this to the moon, and you'll see that it is actually making a trine over here to Saturn and in opposition to the sun. Now, one of the really, actually, hold on, there's another one that is in play here. So I'm going to reorient that. There we go. All right, now we can see the right picture. You see how just a few hours can change the orientation. But when we look at this on the actual full moon time, we see that we have the Pluto, the Neptune, and Saturn. This shifts the entire energy here. That where we go from this new moon in Taurus over here to this full moon in Scorpio, right? These are the opposites, right? Taurus and Scorpio are the opposites. So this is bringing to the surface what is happening or what is operating behind closed doors, in the dark, in the depths, right? Scorpio is that sign of power and depth, shared resources, transformation. It's that regenerative energy, that releasing energy, so that we can have space for, right, the new. This is the death and rebirth energy. Things die off, so new things are reborn. It's like when we are shedding an old identity to transform into a new identity. The Scorpio here, right, is the thing you're most afraid to see, the thing you're most afraid to deal with, the thing you're most afraid to confront is the thing that you actually are ready to see. And it's not that it's going to blow everything up, it's surgical. This particular with Saturn, with Neptune, this is surgical, my friend. This is really getting in to the thing that is going to disrupt the thing to get you to where you want to go. And Pluto, or Scorpio, is here to do just that. It's here again. So I talked about disruption with Uranus, and now we're talking about disruption with Pluto. It's here to actually tell you, are you done participating in this? Are you done, just, getting by with this? Are you ready to move beyond that? That's here. That's this full moon at the very, very end of the month. It's illuminating what needs to be talked about, what needs to be seen, what breakthrough needs to happen. This is one of the questions that I ask the Sacred CEOs every single week is we are not shying away from breakthroughs. We are calling them in. And this right here, this full moon is exactly that. It's where are you ready for the breakthrough? Because it's going to shine the light on that breakthrough. It's going to expose it for you, my friend, because breakthroughs are not to be scared of. They are to invite in. I'm ready to break. I'm done with this. I am ready for something to change. I'm ready for something new. And that's what this does right here. All right, let's keep moving on because as I said, we've got a lot to talk about. So we're going to move down to Mercury. Now, Mercury is our planet, as I mentioned, of communication. It is our planet of thinking, processing information. It rules over short travel, our community, and our siblings. Now, right here, we'll see that it has already moved into Gemini. So I'm going to go back because at the beginning of the month, Mercury moved into Aries. So right here on the 29th of April is when it actually moved into Aries. That's early in the morning. So I'm just going to move over to the 30th where you can see it. There you go. We have it right here in Aries. Now, Mercury in Aries, I kind of already mentioned this, so I'm going to quickly just go through this. But Mercury in Aries is you say the thing, you make the ask, you lead the conversation. This is moving, right? This is just doing it, just saying it, and then asking for forgiveness later, right? This is Mercury just speaking. It's like where it just comes out and you're like, oh, right? That's Mercury here. Now, when we get, now we're going to see this go through about the 14th, right? So one of the things I do love about Mercury here is that it gets me to make the appointment, right? It gets me to invite the person to the thing. It gets me to start that routine that I've been wanting to start, right? It puts me into that space of like, oh yeah, I want to do this thing, or oh yeah, let's do this thing, or I'm gonna just do it, right? Which I love. When it moves into Taurus though, which it'll move into Taurus right around that same time, right? Because we saw that conjunction with the sun, it's going to move into Taurus on the 15th. And when it moves into Taurus, it starts to change. As I mentioned, it wants to stop and smell the roses. It wants to slow things down. It wants to deepen things. And so here, the ideas that we have and like, oh, I want to do this, and oh, let's create this, and oh, like, right, all of that we had with Aries, in Taurus, it's like, okay, does this idea, is it sustainable? Does this idea that I have, can I do this, right? I have an idea right now with Sacred CEO to do we have a Sunday reset that we do on Sunday mornings. And I'm like, everybody loves that reset. And we used to do this reset and Rise and Align, 3 times a week. And so I'm like, the idea, right? You know what? They really need that support. Let's do it 3 times a week. And then, right, with Taurus, like in Aries, I'm like, let's do it. But in Taurus, it's like, is that sustainable, Danie? Can you really do that is that sustainable to do that all the time? And so the thought was like, ooh, okay, what if I do it for so many days? Like, what if I do it for a season, right? What if I just do it for a quarter instead of committing to doing it forever, right? Let's test it, right? And that's where this kind of comes in. Taurus is like, is this sustainable? Is this something practical that you can do? Or was just like a really fun idea that you had in Aries, right? That's the difference between Aries and Taurus. It's like, is this sustainable? Can I do this? Are we taking care of ourselves here? Like, what is that? The other thing that, Mercury here is it's not just in the head, it wants to start embodying it. And Taurus is a very, very grounded sign. And so all of these thoughts, it's like, oh, I want to ground this in. Now, the challenge though here is that Taurus is stubborn and Taurus doesn't like to budge. It wants to hold on to its thing, whatever that is. And so it's going to plant its feet in even when it's wrong. And trust me, I know this. Even when it's wrong, it's going to plant its little feet in and it's not going to move. It's going to say, nope, this is what we're doing and we're sticking with it and that's it. And this rigidity can mess us up sometimes. And so I want you to just be mindful of that as well, because this can show up in so many ways as we are moving through Mercury in Taurus. The other thing is, vagueness does not work with Taurus. Vagueness does not, it wants the clarity. It wants the clear decision. It wants, it has weight, right? Our writings, our shares, it has weight during Taurus. It's not superficial, right? In Gemini, it might get a little superficial. In Aries, it might be a little superficial, but in Taurus, there's a little bit of weight here, right? It's grounding it. So just something to consider as Mercury is moving through this energy. And as you're looking at what you're offering and what you're putting out there and what you're doing is, does this feel aligned, right? Taurus is here to say, yeah, yes or no, which is it, right? Does it feel aligned or does it not? So we're going to see both of those come into play. So Mercury will move out of Aries into Taurus on the 15th, and then it will move out of Taurus into Gemini on the 29th. And so when it moves into Taurus, so I want you to consider this, it's moving through 3 signs. It's moving through a fire energy, an earth energy, into an air energy. Now with Gemini, it's I've learned so much, right? I've taken action, I've sat with it, and now I'm ready to share with you what has happened, what I've learned, and share all of that knowledge. That's where Gemini loves to share, loves to be social. It wants to like involve all the people and do all the things, right? This is the energy of Mercury. So it's going to move from that I'm taking action, I'm doing the thing, to, okay, slow down, what's sustainable, what's not, to here's what I learned, and I want to share all of that with you. This is all happening within a month. So if you feel like you're going a little crazy, this is probably why. Just blame it on Mercury. Just blame it on Mercury. Okay, a couple other things that I do want to mention. We did see the conjunction with Chiron. We can see it here. We also have Uranus, which is disrupting things. The conjunction with Chiron, which is just at the very beginning of the month, is actually going to bring up some of the wounds. And I'm going to tell you specifically because it'll still be in Aries. It's going to bring up self. It's going to bring up who you think you are, right? So it's going to bring those up here at the very beginning of the month. And then towards later in the month, towards the end of the month, as it moves out of Taurus into Gemini, it's going to bring up that social energy, that do I know enough, right? Do I know enough to share this? Do I know enough to do this? It's going to bring that up towards the end of the month. All right, let's move on to Mars, because Mars is going to be in Pisces, and then it's going to move into Aries. So let's first talk about Mars in Pisces. So as we kick off this month, we have Mars here in Pisces. Now, Mars, as I mentioned earlier, it is our drive and it is our motivation. When it's in Pisces, like those of us that are go-go getters and doing the thing, it slows us down, right? It gets waterlogged, right? It's almost as if like you're trying, y'all remember the sword and the stone? You know how like everybody tried to pull that sword out and nobody could pull it out. It wasn't until the magic, right, happened and then it was able to come out. Like that's this Pisces energy. It's like, nope. You can't do it. You can't do it until it is all aligned and all in place, and then you can pull it, right? You are learning to surrender with Pisces. And we've been learning this, again, as I mentioned, since the beginning of April. If you're like, this is clicking for you, like, wow, that totally makes sense about April, is you have been being called to surrender. You've been called to get things in order, to slow down, to not force things, to allow things to come from within, not from the external, right? It's how to move with the current rather than against it, right? There was a time on this trip that we just took where I was trying to go against the current, right? I was trying to plan everything and schedule everything and, hit like, we got to go here, we got to do this. And it was like this rigid schedule. And I was getting burnt out by it, not realizing what was underneath that was security. But as I looked at it, it was like, wow, if I just release this, if I just release control on all of this and just allow myself to be here, allow myself to be present, I guarantee you this trip will be very different. And indeed it was. When I let go of the control, like I was trying to figure out where we're going to stay next and try to figure out, all the things. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let it be. I had seen a couple of places, but I was like, all right, I'm just going to let it be. I took Jake for a walk. I come back and my love's like, hey, did you see this place? It was one of the places that I had kind of like saw. And he's like, this place, this looks perfect. Like, let's just go here. And it was the most perfect place that we could have landed around Easter, and ended up staying a couple of days there and just had the best time and met some really great people. And it's just like, man, when you release that control and you allow things to align in and you trust, right? Things fall into place. Now, some of the things that I'm going to recommend you do, because first off, we are in Pisces, and one of the things that's really nourishing to the soul is, especially in Pisces for Mars, is doing some water therapy. It's one of the things that we definitely took advantage of while we were on the trip by visiting the beaches, by visiting lakes, by going to the pool and to the spa, like pretty much every day, to be in that energy of water, right? There was a point on the trip where I had a really hard time. I was struggling, and I was being forced to move through something that was very uncomfortable. And I went to the spa, right? I went to the jacuzzi, and sat in the warm water. And it was so healing to my soul, exactly what I needed. And that right here, this is that Mars and Pisces energy. Some of the other things are somatic practices, whether that's breath work, whether that's also prioritizing sleep and regulating your nervous system. Like, these are restorative practices that Mars, those are things that you can do. Like, it feels like you can't do anything in Mars sometimes. This is what you can actually do. Now, in relationships and love, I'm going to say this can be a little bit harder here because we can take on other people's energy. And so I want to say that right now because it can be really hard to separate our emotions. You might have been struggling with this between other people's stuff and your stuff, or carrying their stuff as if it's yours. And my friend, you don't have to do that, okay? You can get more easily drained here. Boundaries that you were super clear on at the beginning of the year can start to get a little fuzzy. And so this is that good opportunity to be like, okay, let's reevaluate this. Let's look at this, especially as we're about to move into Aries, because in Aries, it's like, we're done, moving on next, right? So let's talk about Mars in Aries, which is going to come into play here towards the end of the month. Let's go to, and if any of this is resonating with you, if any of this is like, oh my goodness, yes, I've been seeing this, or I've been feeling this, let us know in the chat. I love when you guys comment and tell me what is happening with what you're seeing here. All right, right here on the 11th, Mars is going to move into Aries, and this is where the energy is going to shift, my friend. Okay, and this will be here all the way till June, end of June, June 20th. Mars here acts without permission. I've said this already. It is not seeking approval. It doesn't care about your feelings. It's going to move. And you might be feeling that, right? And those of us that are very empathetic and very supportive and caring, right? This gets really hard for us because it's like, you know what you need to do, but like all of that emotion comes into play and you're like, oh, but I can't do it. But this and but that, right? But your drive and your motivation is like, I'm done. Right? I'm done. We're not, unless you've got a lot of Scorpio in your chart, it's probably a little bit harder for you to just cut people off, right? And so I say that, so as you're evaluating stuff, especially with Taurus and what you value and what you value in your relationships, and is this being, right, reciprocated, this can come into play, right? Because this is going to move and then figure it out. Mars in Aries doesn't care. It's going to move. And in many ways, this is great because we want to take action, right? We never would have known what it was like to work and travel had we not actually done it, right? I could have prepared. I could have said, we need X amount of money. We need to do X. We need to take X, but not until we got out on the road, right? Like, I'll give you an example. On top of our car, like, we had the ideas that we would sometimes stay in places, sometimes camp, whether that was with a tent or in our car. Like, we brought up all kinds of different scenarios and what would work and what we liked and what we didn't like. And so we had the three options, right? We bought a thing to go on top of our car to carry excess, like our luggage and excess things that we might need, so that if we did want to sleep in the car, we could do that. We also had a tent. We have this pop-up tent, which is really great and really convenient to travel with, that we could just pop up, right? If we wanted to camp. We had, and we thought of all these things. One thing we didn't take into consideration, which I had looked at and kind of planned for, but didn't know until we were actually there, right? So we took the action and we did it, and we had things in place, but we weren't expecting weather. And that is to be extremely cold and not being able to camp, right? And in some cases being extremely hot and not being able to camp. So it was this play on, oh, we took the action, we saw what was needed. That's Mars and Aries. It's going to take the action, and then we can look back and be like, right? Every time we'd be like, oh, okay, we got to count for this next time, or we got to think about this next time, right? Instead of even looking at food wise, right? We're vegetarian, vegan. So looking at options, right? We can't just necessarily go, I ate more pizza on this trip than I have eaten in a very long time, which is like, the option was pizza all the time because that's what was available based on what we could eat, which sent my body into a whole other thing because I don't eat a lot of dairy because it doesn't do me any good. These are things, right, that we learned as we were moving. That's Mars in Aries. All right, let's talk about one of the last things, and that is Venus. And we're going to talk about Venus in Taurus. Now, I know I'm talking a lot about the changing of these signs this month, but I'm telling you this because this is affecting the bigger landscape. Now, the little transits of, this being sextile this and this being conjunct this, like, yes, those come into play, but these movements are much bigger. And because we're having multiple move, like Mercury, 3 signs in a month, Mars, 2 signs in a month, Venus, 2 signs in a month, this shifts the energy. So this month can feel very chaotic in how things are moving. My friend, I'm here to tell you though, that these are all working for your greatest and highest good. These are all flowing together. They are not random. They are not one individual thing. They are working cohesively together. All right. Now I realize I haven't been sharing my screen, so I'm really going to share my screen this time. And I'm going to come back here to Venus. So Venus in Aries. Now I've already talked about these zodiac signs. I'm just going to give you a little bit of the nuances for Venus. So Venus starts our month off in Pisces. And so very much with that boundless energy and taking on other people's things as we begin this month. And then right here on the 11th, when she moves, I'm over here looking at Mars. So let me move her out of, I'm over here talking about Mars when I'm looking at Venus. Wow. All right, let's skip out of that. So she started off in Aries. So let me tell you about her starting off in Aries, and then we'll move into her in Taurus. So in Aries, Venus is taking the action, right? In the realms of our relationships, in the realms of money, in the realms of what we value. So with Venus in Aries, she's wanting to do the things. She's wanting to prioritize herself, her relationships, and the things that she's doing to take care of herself. So she's wanting to step into that prioritizing her, right? You can think of this as self-love, right? She's ready to take care of her. Now, as we move into Taurus, she is spending the money on those things, right? She went from knowing that she needs to put herself first and seeing, right, with Aries, where that is out of alignment, to Taurus, where it's like, I'm actually now doing it. I am getting, right, going to the sound baths. I'm going over to the beach and getting that water therapy. I'm having those deep conversations with friends and relationships to see whether this is something I want to continue in, or I'm ready to move on, right? I'm ready to heal this relationship, or I'm ready to move on. Well, when she gets to Gemini, which will be right here on the 14th, which will be through the end of the month, all the way into June, that's going to shift. And she's going to get social. She wants, it's like, I've been taking care of myself and now I'm ready to go out. It's kind of like, all week you might have been on the diet, right? You might have been watching what you eat. You might have been taking care of yourself. You're doing your routines. And then it gets to the weekend and you just want to go out and have fun. That's where we're at here. She moves over from taking care of herself to Now let's invite some other people in. Now, the really beautiful thing about this is she's done the work during Taurus to figure out what she wants, what feels good in her body, what feels good for her body, and what doesn't. So that when she gets to Gemini, she knows where to move and where not to. She knows eating this feels really good to me. I want to do more of this. These types of relationships feel really good and nurturing to me. I want more of this, right? And so she gets to go out and now test these things. Now, when we get to Cancer, that's a whole other story. But for right now, she's going to move through this and play and practice and check in and check up. She's going to do all of those things. So this opportunity with Venus, as we go from her being in Taurus of taking care of self, so you might find that you're wanting to really dive into that more this month, to halfway through the month where she's like, okay, now I'm ready to go out and have some fun. Now I'm ready to go do some things. I'm ready to go hang out. I'm ready to be with the people, knowing how I can take care of myself, right? I say I'm more of an ambivert, although people think I'm more of an extrovert. And I would say I'm an introvert, but I love to be around people. I love to go work in coffee shops and just be around people, right? And you know, sometimes on the trip, it was like, I mean, I love my love, but it was like, anybody else? I want to talk to more people, right? And, you know, and I also need my alone time, right? I need my time to refill my cup. And that's where she's at. She's like, I know how to refill my cup. I know what practices work for me. I know what doesn't work for me, so that when I go out and I do the thing, I know how to come back and re-energize. I know how to come back and do that thing. And for my extroverts, you get amplified by other people. But that doesn't mean that you need to be around people 24/7, because that could be too draining as well. All right, my friend, this has been our Sidereal Astrology forecast for the month of May. Now, normally we talk about all the different little transits that are happening. I'm going to save that for my Instagram, so come on over and I'll talk about what's kind of happening throughout the month. So make sure that you are following me over on Instagram at Danie C Muniz. If you're looking for more support, this week, you can find resources down below. We've got our daily reset practice. We've got our daily spiritual workbook that you can go through that really gives you a good process, especially with Venus being in Taurus. Really great time to look at your daily spiritual practices. What is it that you're doing, right? How are you doing them? How consistently are you doing them, for sure? And we've also got a call with me. It's called an inner authority call. If you're like, okay, I've done these things, I'm ready for that next step. I'm ready to see like what is blocking me, what is behind these things. If you want to come out with, you know, more clarity, you want to know what your next best step is, you want to know what's been guiding you, whether it's a past life, whether it's a particular belief or a pattern that you're stuck in that you can't seem to identify despite doing the work, then I would love to invite you to an inner authority call with me. We'll look at that. We'll also look at your astrology to see where, like what's happening. And this is all done within the Akashic Records. So we've got that divine guidance as well. My friend, I'm here to support you. If you see me as somebody who can support you on this journey, then definitely check out what's going on below and see if I might be your next guide. All right, my friend, until next time, remember to keep shining your unique light.